hiding the crimes.
The written policy was we keep known child molesters secret.
While victims suffer.
My innocence was taken away.
When W5 continues.
Welcome back to W5. Avery Haynes' investigation into the Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine has unveiled sexual abuse survivors who claimed they reported their abuse to elders, but police were never called in. Well, now some of those victims are taking the religious sect to court, which will be a difficult and costly battle.
All around the world, people come together every week at places of worship called Kingdom Halls.
The Jehovah's Witnesses official website hosts dozens of videos that depict warm family scenes. It's a stark contrast to the emotional court battles and international investigations that allege the organization has covered up child sex assault cases. Now, 2 class action lawsuits have been filed in Canada, one for $66 million. Neither has yet been certified to proceed.
There's one place with a long history of taking on Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's right here in California. Dozens of civil suits have been filed against the organization in this state, each of them settled quietly out of court, except for one, the historic case of Candace Conti. Now, Candace was just 9 years old when she went out door to door, spreading the word of Jehovah. Because she was so young, she was sent out with an older man, a man who had something else on his mind, and it had nothing to do with God.
Do you feel stronger after all of this?
I do. There's a lot of times where I don't, but I do.
Candace grew up as a Jehovah's Witness and from an early age embraced everything it seemed to offer. She wanted to get to heaven for a very specific reason.
My grandfather died at a really, well, for me, a really young age. And the thought that I could see him again was one of my driving forces to be the best Jehovah's Witness that I could be. And to do that, you know, you spend your time, you spend your energy, you go out and you talk to people, and you try to bring them into the fold.
Candace's door-to-door minder was this man. Jonathan Kendrick was 41 years old in 1995. Instead of taking Candace to preach Jehovah's word, he took her to his own house, repeatedly, for more than a year.
How old were you?
I was 9.
Can you give me a sense of what happened when you were a 9-year-old girl?
I was taken advantage of. My innocence was taken away.
Her innocence may have been taken away, but her fight most definitely was not. Candace kept the abuse secret for years, but when she was 16, she searched Kendrick's name online and found this, a public child abuse database. He was a convicted child molester. She knew she had to speak up.
The sense of guilt that I had felt, I think, had pushed me to trying to prevent this from happening to other children.
Candace reported her allegations to an elder. It didn't go well.
You walked in and said to the elders, I'm also a victim. I am also a survivor of this man. And what did they say to you?
I was literally told, quote unquote, what do you want me to do? Start a holy crusade?
Months passed and Candace was finally summoned by the elders. They told her they had interviewed Jonathan Kendrick.
And he said he didn't do anything, so there's nothing that we can do. you know, and so that's where that terrible, hideous two-witness rule comes into play.
The two-witness rule, a Bible-inspired doctrine that dictates elders cannot discipline someone unless there are two witnesses to the alleged sin.
You can't even really wrap your head around that, you know, a two-witness rule. I mean, you don't have one witness to a child molestation, you know. So
But Candace didn't back down. Instead, she got a lawyer.
I describe Candace Conti as the client that I hope every good lawyer gets once in a career.
Rick Simmons was Candace's lawyer.
These are exhibits, and they represent a couple of smoking guns in the Candace Conti case.
They do. One is a letter sent by the elders at North Fremont Congregation, where Candace had been a member all of her life, 2 years before the sexual abuse of Candace by Jonathan Kendrick began.
The letter says Kendrick admitted to elders that he sexually assaulted a girl before they paired him with Candace. In this deposition video, you can hear Rick Simmons ask an elder about that admission.
Do you recall becoming aware of a report of sexual abuse of a child by Jonathan Kendrick?
Yes. He had called us to his home to discuss or to confess to an incident with his stepdaughter.
So they knew that they had a sexual predator in their congregation who was going out with children.
They knew that.
And what about this one?
This is a body of elder letter, and it instructs the elders in every congregation in the United States that if they receive a report of child molestation within their congregation, that they are to keep it secret.
The letter states there is a time to keep quiet. Problems are created when elders unwisely reveal matters that should be kept confidential. It was an order, and the elders obeyed.
We don't make that public to the congregation. That's confidential.
The written policy of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses was, we keep known child molesters secret.
The jury awarded Candace $28 million, the richest judgment against a religious group for one person in U.S. history. Since then, it's been whittled down to just under $3 million. And that's because an appeals court decided that the organization did not have a responsibility to warn the congregation about Kendrick.
All of that money aside, she didn't get what she was after, which was a change in the policy.
I don't think she got a formal change in the policy, but the publicity, the knowledge that when your doorbell rings on a Saturday morning, the person standing there could be a convicted child molester posing as a religious believer. That message has gotten out.
Beyond just delivering a powerful message, Simmons thinks lawsuits like Canada's new multi-million-dollar suits will eventually force the Jehovah's Witnesses to change.
They have tremendous wealth, billions of dollars in wealth, but the price of abuse is getting higher, and at some point it gets too high to be able to withstand it.
You believe that?
Yes, it will, because the financial cost, like it did the Catholic Church, will make sure that they have to change to survive.
Do you believe you'll ever see a day where the Jehovah's Witnesses strike that two-witness rule from their doctrine?
Yes, I hope. I think that the two-witness rule works for, you know, stealing a loaf of bread, but it does not work for rape and child abuse at all.
not a Jehovah's Witness, so Eloise had to keep their close relationship a secret.
She was the nicest girl I ever knew in my life. She was lovely, she was loving.
Boyer believes it was fear of being kicked out and shunned that led to Eloise's death. She says her niece was surrounded 24/7 by what's called the Hospital Liaison Committee, known to critics as the Blood Police, a group of Jehovah's Witnesses who keep vigil around believers who are at risk of receiving a transfusion.
Nobody who's not Jehovah's Witness can see her. She was sequestered.
Sequestered.
Yeah.
The doctors treating her told her many times, you will most certainly die if you don't accept blood. But she never believed it.
Michel Morin is an author who's written a book about the case, and its title is blunt. It's called They Killed Eloise Dupuis. He argues that hospital liaison committees coerce people through fear of shunning.
If you get blood, you will be disfellowshipped, so your family won't talk to you again, you will lose access to the paradise, etc., etc. And so there is so many threats, you know, and so many pressure put on these people that we're not talking about free will here. Even if a doctor, a competent doctor, tells her about the reality of blood transfusion, he has like 24, 48 hours to convince her and to change 20 years of deception, of lies. It's an impossible task.
A coroner's inquest concluded Eloise was not unduly influenced by fellow Jehovah's Witnesses, a ruling her aunt thinks is absurd. She believes Eloise wanted to live, but the fear of being kicked out and shunned was too powerful.
They are brainwashing everybody. You have no choice when you're a Jehovah's Witness. You don't have the choice to think. She didn't deserve that. And I miss her a lot.
Shaking the foundations
We're out here just to talk to people and warn them
of a rock-solid belief.
We will never change our scriptural position on that subject.
When W5 continues.
Jika Anda seorang Kristen yang ingin mendukung channel ini mencegah penyesatan organisasi Saksi Yehova, tolong tekan tombol like karena semakin banyak like maka YouTube akan merekomendasikan video ini secara otomatis kepada lebih banyak orang Kristen lainnya.
They call themselves the Vast Apostate Army, former Jehovah's Witnesses who are speaking out against the Christian sect they say covers up allegations of sexual abuse within its ranks.
1,006 pedophiles that you guys hid!
Today, they're bringing their allegations to a place they once revered, deep in rural New York State, outside the small town of Warwick. This is Bethel, the world headquarters of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
let's do this. So, well, I'm on Facebook. You guys are watching live all over the world. We got people coming in from Australia and pretty much everywhere.
The governing body inside knows the protesters are here, and despite the fact that it's raining, the compound's sprinklers have been turned on, full. Parker Bryan organized the rally and has nominated himself to take their complaints to the security gate.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Can you hear me? So my name is Parker. We were hoping we could get one of the governing body members to come out and say hello and have a few words. Is that possible?
So you know what? The site is closed at the moment, and the persons you're requesting, they're not available.
Not available.
Also, you may not know this, but this is private property. So your friends aren't able to be here.
The two-witness rule has got to go. Kids are being molested, and they're not being turned into the authorities.
The protesters may not have been heard.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day, okay?
But they would later find out they were definitely seen.
They're starting to block the main entrance.
This video was taken from inside the compound, well behind that security gate. Video and stills of not only the group, but of individual protesters as well. Someone from inside Bethel recorded the demonstrators, and for some reason, secretly posted it online.
Yeah, down here at the gate, they're actually grouping up, approaching the gate.
And this isn't the only video that came from behind the gates.
Greetings. We're so happy you could join us for this broadcast.
The Jehovah's Witnesses official website regularly broadcasts this newscast-like presentation. Almost immediately after the protesters delivered their in-your-face message,
If you'd open your Bibles to Romans chapter 12 and verse 1,
this senior official appeared on the broadcast, defending the two-witness rule.
the scripture is very, very clear. It says, no single witness may convict another for any error or any sin that he may commit. On the testimony of two witnesses or on the testimony of three witnesses, the matter should be established. There has to be a confession or two witnesses. So we will never change our scriptural position on that subject.
This grassroots group of ex-witnesses didn't really expect to meet with anyone from the governing body during the protest. There's a long history of not responding to criticisms or allegations publicly, something W5 found out firsthand.
This is the Canadian headquarters of the Jehovah's Witnesses in Georgetown, north of Toronto. We requested an on-camera interview here, as well as at the world headquarters in New York State. Both requests were denied. And so we sent a long list of questions surrounding their child protection policies, including whether or not police are called every time a sex abuse allegation is made. Instead of answers, we received a variation of a statement that the Jehovah's Witnesses have been using for years.
They say the Jehovah's Witnesses abhor child abuse, a crime that sadly occurs in all sectors of society. We believe that loving and protective parents are the best deterrent to child abuse. The victim and his or her parents have the absolute right to report the matter to the governmental authorities. Elders do not shield abusers from the authorities or from the consequences of their actions. It's a statement that Christian Gutierrez from Calgary hopes to challenge in court. Christian is the public face of a $66 million class action lawsuit filed against the Jehovah's Witnesses organization in Canada.
I want justice. I want this to stop. I would like the Watchtower to change their policy. It's just a simple policy.
The lawsuit has not been certified to proceed yet, but Christian isn't waiting around.
All right.
Christian and his wife Katya host a YouTube channel that reaches hundreds of thousands of people. Their message: challenge the Watchtower's rules and get out.
When you finally leave, feel free.
Yeah, that's so true.
And they're not the only ones using social media to fight back against the Jehovah's Witnesses.
And we're out here just to talk to people and warn them.
Several of the protesters who marched to the world headquarters in New York State are waging social media war against the Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine, including Trisha Frangina, who had the courage to talk about her sexual abuse online.
I just want other victims to know that they're not alone and you have a voice. Now's the time to use it.
We're all excommunicated, we've all lost family, we've all lost friends, and we're all just saying we're not invisible. We're not going to be quiet anymore.
In Canada, the Jehovah's Witnesses are a legal registered charity, one of the country's richest. Each year, it raises more than $75 million tax-free. We'll be right back.